In this video, let's talk about utilizing feature lines to grade some irregular shapes and more particularly how they operate or interact with each other. So remember from previous video that two feature lines in the same site that cross or meet must meet at the same elevation. And we can also control how feature lines operate with each other by hierarchy. So in your site that you have, if you come to the feature lines and right click and go to properties, you'll see all of the feature line properties that you have in your drawing. The order of these from top to bottom is the order of priority that the software will take them, with the highest priority being the one that it will keep true, and anything that falls under it will then take values from the higher priority. So in this drawing, I've created three for the sake of this video called first order, second order, third order. And what we're wanting to do is grade this pad that is an irregular shape. And the thing that makes it difficult is that we want it to rise from south to north at a 0.25%, but we want no cross slope. And the reason this is difficult is that this right-hand side here is not parallel or symmetric with this. So if we just did up at a 0.25 and then down at 0.25, this run is longer, so the elevations on it are different, so it would yield a cross slope. So we're going to utilize some of this interactivity to help control this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this left line here as my control. And I want this bottom point to be at elevation 100. And again, we're going to go upgrade at a 0.25%. So rather than drawing them, since I've already got them in here, I'm going to convert objects. So I won't have objects on objects. So we're going to create a feature line from an object. We're going to select that, hit enter. I've already got a dummy site. The name, I'm going to just let it do its thing, but I do care about the style. So I'm going to choose first order because this is going to be my controlling feature. And we're going to raise it and we're going to assign elevations. And I'm going to give it an elevation of 100. And over here on the right, you can see it in 3D. So we now have this feature line. Now, because I created from objects, I'm not certain which direction it is going here. So station 0 is on the south, so we got lucky. And so it is hooked. So I'm going to select that, do my grade ahead at our 0.25. So we've now, let's do something greater so we can see it on the right hand side. Let's do 10%. There we go. So up at a 10%. Now, what else do I do? What do I do from here? I'll remember that I want 0 cross slope. So I want to grade this line up at a percent. I don't know what it is, so that the overall pad has that 10% slope. I'm going to do that with some cross features here to help control the cross slope. In order to do that, I'm going to use the secondary order feature style. So I'm going to create something here, and I'm going to put it on my second order. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to go from here, and I'm just going to let that choose its elevation for now, and I'm going to put it over here perpendicular to this one. And notice that if I change it to elevation by hitting E, it grabbed that elevation from that feature line. You can see it on the right hand side. I'm going to hit enter to put that in there. So now that that's in here, I'm going to select it, go to my elevation editor, and I'm going to, now I had to draw it backwards, so keep that in mind. So starting point's on the right. So here I'm going to put my grade back at 0. And you can see that it rose the other end. So I'm creating these traverse features that are going to help control slope. So I'm going to repeat that process for the rest of them. I'll do one more and then we'll skip out of it so you don't have to watch me do this. So we're going to hit OK. I'm going to go from here, let it just choose an elevation, do it perpendicular. And it grabbed a good elevation, so I'm going to hit enter. Go into here. Now I could use this and use the quick selector. See that it's got the direction, so I'm going to grade it this direction at 0. you'll see it raise that point. So a little bit faster than using the elevation editor. And I don't have to worry about directionality, which one's 0. So it just depends on whether you're a tabular type person or if you like these grips. So before we skip forward, I want to select this one and come to my elevation editor and let you see that here are the two PIs I created, these filled triangles. These two are two interpreted PIs. These are the PIs at the intersections that it automatically created, and they're gray, and see that I can't change that elevation. So I can only change between actual PIs that I made, not interpreted ones. So I'm going to skip forward and do the rest of these, and then we'll come back. So I've got all these secondaries in here, and I got them all set except for one, this one here in the middle. And the only reason I haven't set that is I wanted to show one more thing, is that when I'm using the elevation editor here, or the quick edit, and we looked at those arrows, notice how when I'm on this side, this direction, I have the green arrow. This way is gray because the secondary is at this point is touching a first order, so it will not let me control that point. I can only control this point. That's why it's gray. So if I click it, I just get an error, unable to change it. So another good way of enforcing this control between them. So now that we've got all these secondaries, we can just jump right in and do a third one. Why don't we just, now we can handle this one, but instead of a second order, let's do a third order. So we've got this one holding true, we've got this controlling our cross slope, and this one is just kind of in here so we can use it to make our surface. So in this case, I'm going to delete this line here so that I don't accidentally grab it when I'm doing my elevations. And let's create us a feature line, and let's do third order this time. And now we're just going to snap through and draw these in. And because that is a third order, it's being controlled by these. So if I chose this and change this to 10% positive, for instance, you can see over on the right that it moved that line. So I change that back to 0. And all of this may seem simplistic to do, but keep in mind that if I did a feature line over here, let's do first order, and I cross this line now, remembering this station elevation. So if I go from here at elevation 0, and I go to here at elevation 0, you see what it did. It created a PI. So if I open this, you can see that crossing point. It also did the same thing for the other one, whichever one that is, but it added another PI here. You see it added it, and it can't be edited. Two features of the same order cross each other. The one that was drawn last controls, or one that was edited last controls. The one that was drawn last. You would think it is edited, but it's the one that is drawn, because remember, when I open this and here's that crossing, I can't even change it. I mean, it's inferring it. So if I did grade ahead at -50, you see what happened? It broke the world. It changed everything. So let me see if I can control Z out of that, which I can't. So then we're going to put 0.25, or sorry, in again, and it automatically interpreted them all. But it changed that point. So it's the last one if you edit. But if you're just drawing them and you don't come in and edit this one again, it draws it down. So it's the last edit or last create. Last one you touch or change is what controls if they are of the same. So I will delete this, get it back to where we were. And now we've got everything we need to make a surface. So I'll just grab them all at once here. Right click, add them as a break line. We'll just put it on this dummy surface. Hit OK. And here's us a surface with no cross slope. So I can, in theory, I should be able to select this one, which I think I've already got open here. And let's change this to 0.25. Set this to auto rebuild. Now keep in mind, so now what's happening here is that they're still hooked, but this point didn't change. So they're not as perfectly dynamic as you want, but they are dynamic at their point. So I would still have to come in and change all these back to 0 because it didn't hold the slope. So that's something to keep in mind because this may happen similar to what you're seeing right here, and you think it's not working. It's the points that cross other features that do not work. I could change this to a primary or a first order and it would have held it. But then the interoperability of holding this control, I wouldn't have any control over it because it's a secondary with two PIs touching two primaries or two first orders, and they would control it. So this allows you to have a little bit more operation and control over it for these irregular shapes. And I wanted to make sure everyone got to see how to handle these priorities when it comes to feature lines. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and feel free to subscribe.